Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on today to talk to you about the incredible all planets direct phase we will be having from January 23rd, 2023 until April 20th of 2023, almost a 3-month long, uncharacteristically long period of all planets direct, which of course means that we will have no retrograde planets. I've really been looking forward to making this video because it, at long last, really signals a material, mental, spiritual shift that is really direct and not so symbolic or not so beneath the surface. We will be, over this next 3 months, having major changes for a lot of people, okay? Things that are not small, but really significant in many people's life path. I feel that a lot of people are making choices over these next 3 months that will affect the long-term momentum of their lives. And I know also that when we move into those kinds of time periods, astrologically, spiritually, that it can feel pressurized. A lot of people can get kind of concerned about, will I make the right choice? What choice should I make? And there can be this kind of analysis paralysis that comes out. But I think that that will be subsiding right around the beginning of this transit. And I think that a lot of people are just going to naturally start to move into a really meaningful decision-making process. So there are a lot of things that I want to talk about in this video, which will also be having individual videos, but I think this particular piece of content is a good time to kind of give a macro view into some of the major changes that we're having astrologically. Of course, during this all planets direct phase, we will be having Pluto entering Aquarius for the first time, after having spent about 15 years in Capricorn. We will, of course, be having Saturn changing signs as well from Aquarius into Pisces. And the signs Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, and Taurus will all be having a very different kind of activation and will be very strongly expressed over this 3-month period. Of course, Pluto moving into Aquarius, Saturn moving into Pisces. Also, there are going to be some major Pisces stelliums happening during this time of all planets direct. And also, we're going to be having a very interesting Venus-Chiron-Jupiter conjunction in Aries in March, right before Saturn and Pluto change sign. And the sign Taurus, particularly the 14th and 15th degree of the sign of Taurus, are the trigger degrees for this all planets direct phase, as when we enter all planets direct on January 23rd, Uranus will be going direct, being the final planet to go direct at 14 degrees Taurus. Then Mercury will be the first planet to go retrograde on April 20th, breaking the all planets direct cycle in 15 degrees of Taurus. So this all planets direct phase is actually signaling a greater evolution in the sign of Taurus. Okay, going from the 14th to the 15th degree. That's a very interesting cycle happening there. And it's just magical to see how astrology works like that. Like, what are the odds that it would be the same exact part of the zodiac, the same exact part of our solar system, that 14 to 15 degree Taurus area that is activated on both sides, both the beginning and the end of this particular all planets direct phase. So I'll start off by telling you a little bit about 14 and 15 degrees Taurus and what that energy means, because that will have significance for everybody, regardless of what your zodiac sign is. Now, if you are somebody with either the sign Taurus or Scorpio strongly activated in your chart, especially around those degrees of 14 or 15, this will be especially important for you. But that phase of Taurus deals a lot with growth of the abundance and prosperity of the self. The sign of Taurus has to do with earnings. It has to do with economy. It has to do with material representation of abundance and prosperity. And when we get to that area of Taurus, 14 to 15 degrees, it's not just about that separation between the self and the material well-being. It's actually starting to get that sense of value within the self and starting to grow oneself to embody the value spectrum or the prosperity philosophy that is within. So what I think that this all planets direct phase will be queuing up for everybody, but especially, fixed signs, is going to be less of a separation between your inner ideation of what prosperity is versus what the real life scenario is. So I think there's been a large prevalence recently of people like dreaming, the big dream or creating for themselves some kind of like really lofty goal, but not necessarily enacting that in real life. So it creates this larger separation from the dream space, and it can also be a form of escapism. And I think that this all planets direct phase is an important time to start to relinquish an escapist tendency and to start to really step into, with these Aries stelliums also that we'll be having, the Pisces stellium to the Aries stellium in the month of March, I believe will signal people moving from a dream space into an action space. And that's going to be highly connected to this sort of psychological situation where people, based on their own self-value or their own self-love practices, either choose or refuse to have separation between what they feel inside as their own prosperity and their own embodiment of their prosperity versus what they want for themselves in the future, what they don't have now. So it's going to be very much a time, and I think leading up to this transit, it would be felt really strongly if you're having this, like where you start to see that the self is perhaps suffering because of a need to attain some type of material consistency, or that there's just a growing separation between the real actions taken versus the dreams being dreamed. So, for example, dreaming to climb Mount Everest while at the same time quitting climbing lessons. So these like conflicted actions versus dreams, and taking like real life actions that are contrary or the opposite direction to what you're dreaming, which can actually increase the need for those dreams or increase the sort of feeling or the want for that feeling that the dream gives by like sitting with the dream, but not necessarily stepping into the dream. So with that in mind, I mean, we do definitely see some people having like dreams come true during this all planets direct phase. Some people, depending on how Taurus is placed in your own chart, and depending on the way that you work with Taurus energy, if you have a lot of Taurus people in your life, that all will affect how this plays out. Some people can just have the dream now. So some people can buy the dream house now. Some people can totally create a different material life that's very different, and maybe a lot of people have been planning that out for like 2 years now, ever since we've had even a little bit before, but especially since we had the North Node go into Taurus. There are some very savvy and sophisticated people who have, since that period of time, been able to create a certain plan or a certain life experience that now enables them to just sign on the dotted line and have what they want. So that's going to be possible for some people. If that's not feeling like what you're experiencing right now, if you don't feel like it's possible to step onto your main story path, if you don't feel like you can have the living situation that you want, the living situation is coming up for a lot of people, because the 14 and 15 degree of Taurus also deals with the home that we live in, not in the quite the emotional sense like the sign of Cancer, but in the very physical, like purchasing. Some people are going to be purchasing homes. It's always a great time during all planets direct, if it makes sense for you and if you have the right circumstances to make those bigger financial decisions. But of course, consult with someone who can advise in that area. But typically in astrology, we like to see as few retrogrades as possible when making big life decisions, big financial decisions, or big even like spiritual or religious decisions. Any of those big life changes are best taken during an all planets direct phase. Now that you know that, it doesn't mean like rush into it and start getting crazy and start moving too fast, because we really need to plan in advance. And that's one of the values of working with astrology for a long term, because you can really kind of plan a lot of your big things around all planets direct. And I've had a lot of success with that myself. But if you're not feeling like you have the resources or the means or the capability to just have it all right this second, it means, again, that there's some kind of gap between the self-value and the dream, okay? So the self-concept and then the want for the future being in conjunct or being in conflict with each other, in which case this all planets direct phase is coming in for a lot of people to solve that basically identity crisis. Okay. So it can also be both. There are some people who are having kind of a merged situation where there are some like new big things coming in while at the same time they have to solve some kind of identity crisis. And I will say to you all that it's good, in my opinion, to have as much privacy and selfhood as possible during this time, because we have Pluto changing sign, which I will make an individual video about. Hit the subscribe button below if you're new to get notified when the Pluto and Aquarius video goes out. That means that there's going to be a major change in what a quote-unquote popular identity is. We have no basis or baseline for understanding what that is right now. So if you're going around with like Pluto and Capricorn consciousness thinking, yeah, that's sort of like resourceful, entrepreneurial, old conventional, like hardworking, sort of like wealth orientation is going to be the popular identity, let me embody that. It may not be that, okay? In fact, we may have no comprehension right now of what like the societally popular identity will or can be in the next few years. And we're not even gonna quite know it throughout this entire year. So what we have is a sort of like recession process. When I say recession, I'm not talking economically, I'm talking spiritually, where old conventional structures are slowly receding a little bit, but they have not yet been replaced by like the new quote unquote popular versions. And it's kind of important to not get desperate with things and to rush to be something that's just receding anyway. And I think that a lot of people can find themselves in that territory very easily right now, where they might use the energy that they've gained over these last few years and like rush to be that Pluto and Capricorn identity, you know? And it's almost better to slow it down a little bit and increase your health, increase your baseline, increase your wealth. Yes, I mean, it's not just about money, it's not just about material, but freedom and independence goes a long way. And so does privacy. There are going to be pretty big privacy concerns with Pluto and Aquarius, because Pluto and Capricorn is a more private energy than Pluto and Aquarius is. So we could have a receding of a certain privacy construct. You know, we might all be thinking, you know, Yahoo, I'm so happy that these old world constructs are like receding, and finally like the new wave, new world is coming in, and we have all this youthful energy coming in. There are great things about it, but I will say privacy is one of the main things under recession right now. Like, yeah, also there's some like plutocratic kind of like crazy like old world, old money situations also kind of receding. And some people might be enthusiastic about that, but it goes right in conjunction with also some of the older ideas on privacy, anonymity, and things like that. So that will be receding and that will be reducing as well. So people have to be very active if they want privacy right now, and you have to really safeguard it if it is something that you want. Because I will go ahead and give that as a prediction for this all planets direct phase. I think that we will have a move towards a less privacy-oriented social media landscape, a less privacy-oriented, maybe more surveillance-oriented grid space as well by the time this all planets direct is over. The first pass of Pluto into Aquarius, and it's only going to stay there, I believe, until June. So it's not going to be there for long. We're just going to get this small little taste starting in this all planets direct phase in March. Small little taste of what Pluto and Aquarius will mean, but we're not going to quite have the full picture of it because it's not going to go far into the sign at all. So we're going to get this like mainly a foreshadowing more than anything. It's not even going to be at all the main zest of that energy. What I can tell you a little bit about it now before I, really go into that in a separate video is that yes, we have the privacy concern. We also have teamwork, okay? And we have groups, and we have larger living circumstances, like living in bigger spaces with more people, okay? Especially if you're in an urban environment, so bigger apartment complexes, bigger, like prison spaces, bigger, also like databases and bigger social media stuff as well. So like larger platforms, more people being on platforms, more people being like grouped into these like boxes and spaces with Pluto and Aquarius. It is definitely a centralizing kind of energy, for sure. And Pluto and Capricorn is nothing in comparison to the centralization energy of Pluto and Aquarius, it's like a foreshadowing to it, because Pluto and Capricorn also is a centralizing energy, but in a more top-down way. Whereas with Pluto and Aquarius, it's like a more sideways, or more of a, I wouldn't even call it bottom-up, but it's like just totalistic type of group orientation. So in that way, there's a great opportunity with this all planets direct coming on over this next 3 months to create a certain structure or format or somewhat separate spacing for yourself. I think that that's very dignified right now and very good, like creating your own household, creating your own space, creating your own business. Yes, anything that's really independent and really yours is kind of not going to be possible to forge as easily for much longer. That's kind of wordy, but by the time we get Pluto back into Aquarius, so into 2024, it starts to get really difficult to do things without other people's approval, or to do things without a lot of like teamwork and grouping. So I definitely recommend over this all planets direct phase to just like reinforce your independence, okay? Reinforce your privacy, reinforce your selfhood, okay? And that's going back to the 14 and 15 degrees of the sign of Taurus, because this is deeper than just like other people wanting to know you. People don't want to know anybody, okay? It's not about people wanting for other people not to have privacy. It's about a deeper wound with the self, okay? Because privacy is a construct of the self, right? We have to have this understanding of self-identity in order to have a privacy type of construct. So if you think about it, in this kind of like narcissistic social media age, nobody cares who anybody else is, right? So I think that a lot of people have this whole thing kind of like skewed in their mind, where they're like, oh my gosh, everybody wants to like know me and know my like life and where I live and like my credit card numbers and all that. And maybe, I mean, sure, there's like, there are people who want that, but that's not the average, okay? The bigger problem is that people have this gap between their self-comprehension, their self-concept, and what they're like going for, or what they're wanting to get to. And that is that gap is resulting in sort of like a snag in the collective consciousness, is as best as I can put it, where people don't really embrace any kind of deliberate action when it comes to forging themselves or creating their own lives. And they're kind of like floating, or they're kind of like forlorn. So they wind up places, or they wind up in compromising situations, or in quite good situations for some people. My point with this being that this all planets direct phase is an important time to harness the work you've been doing at a spiritual level regarding your self-concept, the work you've been doing at a material level, yes, regarding money, regarding resources, and to be able to really consolidate all of this into your own as independent as possible baseline, okay? Because we do have an issue of, with Pluto and Aquarius and Saturn and Pisces coming on, we definitely have a less individualistic system. So it's good to capture as much of the individualism as you can right now, I would say. But to conclude on this first point, wrapping up on the sign of Taurus and the 14 to 15 degree mark that is so emphasized with this all planets direct. Again, Uranus going direct at 14, triggering the all planets direct phase, and then Mercury going retrograde at 15 Taurus, ending the all planets direct phase. We're leveling up the self-concept in regards to the material reality during these 3 months. That's like the main thing. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're working on, whatever you're embarking, try to understand how it takes your self-concept to the next level, and how you're also not building a bigger gap. This is important. How you're not building a bigger gap between the self you're creating and the self you want to be. Okay, that's like the main spiritual idea. And yes, all of these financial decisions, these housing decisions, these clothing decisions, these love, partnered or single decisions with the sign of Taurus are all very connected to that. So take your relationship status, your housing choice, your budget, the clothes you're wearing, the materials you're wearing, the food you're eating. It's a comprehensive question of well-being with that phase of Taurus, and it's about integrity to the self. And knowing what, again, it's not about the conformity to what society thinks is attractive, but it is about knowing what your body needs. So having like a scratch test for like the allergies could be good. Are you allergic to a material that you're wearing? Could be cool to figure that out. Knowing about the environment that you're in, the air that you're breathing, all of that type of stuff with the Nine of Pentacles, right, in the tarot, 14 to 15 degrees Taurus. It's about creating that soft, healthy lifestyle so that we're ready. And I talked about this in the North Node, South Node in Taurus and Scorpio video, where it was like, I think it was in the Scorpio section, where I was talking about being ready when like the call comes, okay? That we still have the South Node in Scorpio right now. And I think this is the final phase of getting that preparedness down. So having your systems put together, and that means sobriety, that means good environments, that means good budgeting, that means responsibility, accountability, and having more for less, okay? So that you have a certain like surplus or baseline that really gives you flexibility. That's what I'm feeling from the greater evolutionary possibility of this time. Okay, but I want to move on to my next point, which is the role that the sign of Aquarius and its ruling planet Uranus and Uranus's lower octave Mercury are playing. So yes, we had 14 and 15 degrees of Taurus triggering the all planets direct phase, but it's the planets of Uranus and Mercury, which Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. We start with Uranus, which goes direct on January 23rd. Uranus is the natural ruler of Aquarius. Okay, Pluto is going to go into Aquarius during this all planets direct time. And it's also on the new moon in Aquarius that all planets direct starts and Uranus goes direct. The degree to which this is an Aquarian Uranian time is absolutely just like wild. So what that means is that the old ideas, the old solutions aren't going to be adequate here. We have to get creative. And for 99.99999% of people, we have to get a little bit unconventional. Okay. And we have to be careful with that because there can be a problematic area in the unconventional context where people get into a bit of like trouble. But I just don't think that the older traditional ways of problem solving or of developing these individual identities will work with the way that the Aquarian energy is coming in. So we have to be open to new ways of operation. We have to be open to reforming systems. We have to be open to new styles, new ways of business, new ways of running a household, new ways of communication. I would say communication is very emphasized with this. Again, being that Uranus and Mercury are on both ends of this all planets direct. That says to me that our current communication systems, our current transportation systems are highly obsolete in some way, which is interesting because I think that a lot of us think that we're like right on like the edge of technology, with social media being so big and with, new innovations coming with like cars and transportation. And there is a lot of new stuff coming there. But I also think that something has fallen behind, or there is something that is too unevolved now. So this could be like older energy sources. This could be refusing to accept new ways of energy, new ways of powering your house, powering your car, powering your internet, whatever it is. I think that something is stuck or something is going to be changing. So we could have a currency evolution, okay? Not necessarily by the end of this all planets direct, but we might have a lot of new information about that, new digital currency that could come in. Or at least have like a new announcement or a new kind of like embrace. And obviously, we're already seeing like huge changes in the crypto world, which is not my specialty, but I would definitely forecast more changes and more evolution there with these. Of course, Uranus and Taurus has highly been connected to the digital currency movement. highly connected. So we have it getting halfway through the sign, right? So we're having major progress there. But also then just the digital economy beyond digital currency. So like YouTube right here, or anywhere that's online shopping, or digitally procured goods, digital wares, digital economy. So that I think will also have some type of shift over this next 3 months. As well. It could be even like further losses. I know that the tech industry is like really down, like on the stock market and stuff right now. So it could be like further losses that create a high demand for change and a total like reneging of the current status quo of it, and like having to like really get innovative. So with that, I'm not going to predict further losses, but I think that that's possible, because I don't think that if it gets a lot of gains right now, like the tech sector, I don't think that it would change. So I just definitely see like a changes in tech, but we'll see. I'm not quite solid on that, and I'm not an expert in markets, but I do see definitely a new status quo trying to come through about digital economy and digital currency. And it definitely supports like the new creative, unconventional energy of Aquarius as well. So again, but definitely do your own research. This is not a market or currency channel. But at the level of the self, thinking less economically, I think for a lot of people, a new diet is indicated, a new biorhythm, trying maybe new foods that you've never tried before. Again, I definitely recommend, if you've not had some type of allergy testing, to have that during this time. Blood works are good. Anything that gives you a new idea. And I'm just getting multiple messages at once here. Anything that gives you new data, new ideas about your current health is great, because you can start to create new systems with that data. And that's another message coming in really strong, is compile the data now. Aquarius also rules data. It rules statistics. It rules... and especially Saturn getting close to like the anaretic degree of Aquarius, it's like going to, of course, change into the sign of Pisces. We have a need to like get some hard data here. Like, what is the budget on paper? What is the information from the blood panel, the allergy panel? What are the what is the inventory of your household? That can be very cathartic to create during this time. And getting all of that on paper and seeing it side by side can help you to understand what is and is not working. It's important that we have it in a material way like this, because I think that a lot of people get really crazy in the mind and think that they know what they have, but they actually have no clue, like what's in their house. They have no clue what's in their body. And then they're trying to make these decisions based off of whims or impulses without truly understanding the logic. So King of Swords, Queen of Swords energy is very good right now, because the Aquarian, Mercurial, Uranian energy supports a highly logical, highly data-based decision-making process, and a less emotional, less intuitive one. Not less intuitive, but certainly less emotionally charged or less impulsively generated. So we can't make impulsive decisions right now. We can't be unaware of what we have or what we're supporting, and then try to think that we will have a better situation come without that awareness. It's great to get in the Excel spreadsheet right now, for sure. I've been having some good luck with that myself. And for the creatives out there, this is your time to shine. I mean, we have a new high-level creativity window opening up here. Creative solutions. Understanding how to have way more through way less, okay, in integrity-based ways, and just incredibly high-level new methods coming through of generating awesome lifestyles. Like, there's a lot of hope and a lot of possibility there, but it does have to be very logical, and it has to really make sense on paper. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the Pisces and Aries stelliums that will happen during this all planets direct phase. Yes, we will be having a transit of Venus through the sign of Pisces, which will conjoin Neptune and the minor asteroid of Nessus. And that's going to be very healing, okay? That is a time where people truly overcome trauma. Also having no retrogrades at the same time, it's a beautiful opportunity we have over this next 3 months to totally move on from something. Emotional therapies. Great time also for like psychoanalysis, or for not too like deep and dense, but having true healing from a trauma is possible in this Pisces season, especially. And you see with Venus, Neptune, and minor asteroid of Nessus, it's wanting us to create something beautiful for ourselves that symbolizes having moved on from something. That's a beautiful download. So there are a lot of, I mean, you can fill in the blanks for your own life, what that might be, because it's different for different people. But I definitely recommend materially symbolizing the fact that you have overcome or moved on from someone or something in a beautiful way. So that is one of the most cathartic and healing things that I think that this all planets direct phase can give, because people have like the resources, or people have the motivation to actually change or enforce or embody proof of healing. And it's like what I live for. So that's really awesome to see coming in. And it's also definitely a case of the best revenge is living well. Okay, Venus, Neptune, Nessus. Because remember, we will also have Saturn moving up. So we want to really get out of these, like, you know, sad stories about the past, because that can get really weirdly activated in the next few years. So it's good to, like, symbolize it for yourself now. Okay, next, talking about the Aries stelliums. I believe it's like the week of March 5th or the 13th. It's sometime in the first 2 weeks of March. We have Venus, Chiron, Jupiter conjunction in Aries. At the same time as we have an anaretic Saturn and Pluto. That is a transit that we need to talk about, because that could cause some problems for some people. That could be very dark triad for some people, but it's hoping that we can get inspired about what really matters. Okay, so there's going to be like a spark that lights in Pisces season, as well as we have Venus, Chiron, and Jupiter conjoining in the sign of Aries. So we're going to have energy. Okay, we're going to have a lot of excess energy. Good to have a great exercise regimen. Good to be channeling energy. Know your channels. Okay, know what channels that deep Aryan energy for you, and make sure that you have access to that, because there can be like a pent up energy, or there can be like a right after we have this beautifying and symbolizing, we get this sudden boost of energy. And doesn't that make sense? Isn't that very alchemical, right? Like right when you move on from something, right when you symbolize like a true healing, all of a sudden you have this burst of energy. You might want to prepare for that burst of energy. How will you channel that? What will you put that into? It's incredible to get that energy back and to not have it invested in all these past wounds, you know, but that's going to be happening. I think some people will be surprised like how much energy they have and how much they can do. And you might not even be able to realize like the breadth of your potential until you get there. So I am seeing that as a possibility, like people really creating a lot of new realities for themselves and not being able to realize like the potential or the vastness of it until they're there. So you kind of have to put one foot in front of the other in that sense, don't you? You have to like let yourself have these new experiences in order to grow into the actual possibility that's at hand. But with Venus, Chiron, and Jupiter, definitely there can be a wound of excess. Okay, so Venus and Jupiter together naturally are indulgent. They're excessive sometimes, but also very lucky, right? Like Venus, Jupiter is the ultimate benefic energy. It's kind of like that, like aristocratic excess though, too. But it's also the luck of having access to excess. So with Chiron there can be a wound there, like credit card excess, okay, debt excess, having vices that, like the vice of excess or not knowing moderation could be coming up. And again, I would try to channel that into something else. So exercise, an excess of exercise, an excess of positive momentum, building up positive projects, making sure that there's not like a void within what you're contributing a lot of energy to. Okay. And yes, we very soon then will have Pluto in Aquarius, and we will have a Venus-Uranus conjunction in Taurus later into April. So you kind of see the way that Venus is moving from Pisces to Aries to Taurus and having major conjunction transits in each of those signs. So Venus is really beautifying our lives. What a great time to beautify the life and the experience and to scale things over this all planets direct phase. We really are opening to a greater sense of self-concept and beauty of the self. So it's a great time to beautify the appearance, definitely. But that's going to come from the inside out and from a wholesale kind of transformation of the lifestyle, I think. But yeah, Venus-Uranus conjunction in Taurus, the styles will get really like eccentric, and there could be a new eccentricity that comes in, as well as like a new culture around these digital, fads and trends. So that could be coming in. Also with Venus and Uranus and Taurus, it can be like an influx of wealth or an influx of business. If you're a business owner, Venus and Uranus together in the sign of Taurus can be sudden income. But it can also be kind of ungrounded as well. Uranus and Taurus is naturally ungrounded. It has a earthquakey type of energy. With Venus coming in though as well, it could kind of soothe that. So I do think that we have like a soothing time at hand in April as we build up to the end of this all planets direct phase, which will, of course, yes, be triggered by Mercury going retrograde at the 15th degree of Taurus. And ultimately, in conclusion, this is one of the most blatantly positive, naturally healing 3-month cycles that I've seen. Okay, it's like incredibly filled with potential, and it's like a salve. There's the energy of like a universal salve coming in for people who've had a hard time, and also a brand new baseline with which some people will not just have some of the previous concerns like ever again. Some people have passive income now. Some people have like businesses that can't be stopped. Some people have relationships and connections that just are sturdy relationships and connections. Some people have an unbreakable sense of self. Now, do we have to have all of that? No, and I do think there's also going to be some people who are insatiable and can't handle the fact that they don't have all of that. Try to really lean into what you do have and understand where the beauty, benevolence, and Nine of Pentacles sort of wealth energy is in your life. And make sure, and I think this is a great thing to watch out for with this period of time, make sure that you're not negating the natural wealth that you do have in order to find it somewhere else. I see that very prevalently right now, where people already have what they want, but they can't accept that they have it, so they reject it and then go try to make it themselves somewhere else and work for like years and years to have what they already have. So definitely take stock of what you already have. That's one of the major pretexts to this period of time, again, being that it's 14 and 15 degrees of Taurus that are creating and shaping this all planets direct phase. We have to know what we have already. We have to know what we've already created. We have to know what we're already standing on. Also with Pluto being at the last degree of Capricorn and preparing to go into Aquarius, that's also suggesting that we have to know what we've created over the last 15 years. We have to know what it is that we're standing on. Without knowing that, I think there's a lot of work done in vain, and I think that there is a lot of time wasted trying to find what you already have. Now, this time we'll also introduce something that you don't have. So you're going to be seeing new things. You're going to be experiencing things you've never experienced before. But in order to make that as like safe and like sturdy of a situation as possible, we want to know what we do have and not discount it. Okay. But anyway, everyone, I think that I'm going to conclude there. I've so enjoyed filming this video. This is such an opportune 3-month period. I love all planets direct. It's one of my favorite times of the year. Again, this is a long one. I will remind you that it's not uncharacteristic for all planets direct just to last like a week, 2 weeks. Sometimes it's like 3 or 4 weeks, but this is a nearly 3-month long period. So it says to me that a lot of us have really held back or have really rejected a lot of the progress that we needed. And now we might have to make a lot of progress over a longer period of time. And also the restricted or suppressed or held back will have some equal and opposite reaction here now too. So we want to get ahead of that, and we want to understand what we haven't expressed and understand how we can channel and express the unexpressed now. So anyway, everyone, I hope you have a beautiful transit. If you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button below and turn on the bell notifications. Also, this channel is on Patreon. If you would like to get more bonus content, I do weekly forecasts that are only available over there, and it's a great way to support my efforts here on YouTube. Very reasonable to support this channel on Patreon. Anyway, I hope that you are excited, and be sure to leave me a comment below too if you like, telling me what your plans are for all planets direct, and have a great transit. Much love. Bye.